Good evening, everybody. David Paul here in the KHOU 11 Weather Center. It is Tuesday evening at 6:30, so I thought we'd just start by looking ahead to the weekend, right? And it will be hot and sunny, the mix of clouds and sun. Mid-90s both Saturday and Sunday. There will be a slight chance for a stray shower both afternoons at 20% or less, so it's not completely rain-free, but the rain chances are pretty low both Saturday and Sunday, so your plans for the weekend are definitely a go. Just drink water and take breaks in the summertime heat. And we look at rain chances for the next 5 days. Wednesday, 20% rain chance again. Like today, only a couple of isolated showers expected on Wednesday. Thursday, there's a little piece of energy coming in. There's a boundary that's going to drift in from the north as well. So we've raised rain chances back to 40% on Thursday and then drop them back down to 20% or less Friday, Saturday, and Sunday as we go through a very summer-like weekend. And actually it will be the first official weekend of summer with the summer solstice, the longest day of the year in the northern hemisphere. That's Friday. So they'll be up early at Stonehenge on Friday morning celebrating that, and then we celebrate with mid-90s and a slight chance for a scattered shower and very typical June-like weather for us here in Houston this weekend. High temp today on this Tuesday went to 95. That's at Bush. That was at 2:13 in the afternoon. Normal is 93. 100 is the record set on this day back in 1902. And I thought it was interesting. The record low, 62, set on this day way back in 1903. So we had a couple extremes back more than 100 years ago. This is a live picture from our camera way up high, 2,100 feet on our broadcast tower. This is in Fort Bend County. This is looking to the north-northeast. So out here are the neighborhoods of Missouri City, and then further in you get up into Bel Air, and then you get up into downtown, and off in the distance right there, those are the downtown buildings and the med centers right in there as well. Temperatures outside still hovering in the upper 80s to low 90s. Pearland 89, Sugar Land's 91, Conroe's 91, Cleveland at 89. Radar. It's been hard to find a shower this afternoon. This is a growing little shower here in Oakhurst. There's Highway 190, Lake Livingston. So you get west of Lake Livingston, Oakhurst getting wet. That's drifting north. It may just clip the northern side of Lake Livingston. It won't last too much longer. These are going to pulse up and then kind of pulse back down as they drift to the north. And then Harris County, if you squint, that's a little light rain shower east Wallaceville Road, north of Baytown. And then another tiny little shower up here, FM 2920, west of Tomball, drifting up toward the Pinehurst area. Overall, this is what you're looking at for the rest of the evening and overnight. Temps drop down into the 80s. They hover at 80 after midnight tonight. It's going to be tough to get temps to drop below 80 overnight on a very warm summer-like evening and overnight. And then we go into Wednesday, 7:30 in the morning, just mostly cloudy. I'm not expecting rain in the morning. And it looks like by lunchtime, noon 30, just a couple of clouds, plenty of sun, low 90s. We make the low to mid 90s in the afternoon. We may see one or two isolated showers tomorrow afternoon, but rain chances are quite low again on Wednesday. So we kind of had today to dry out in most places, and we get tomorrow to dry out as well, although it will stay very humid. At least we'll have a breeze. Okay, big picture. Hotter and drier, especially for the eastern half of the country over the next several days, including the next week or so. Heat wave is going to build and be centered over the Virginias, the Carolinas, and the East Coast. So they're going to get the heat here. You'll be hearing next week about temperatures nearing 100 up here from Chicago to New York. They're really going to get hot, it looks like. We're going to be on the edge of that heat dome, but we're on the edge, the back edge, and that will encourage flow to come up off the Gulf of Mexico. So what that means for Houston and Texas in that position with the upper high centered here is that we'll get hot each afternoon, and then we'll get that sea breeze coming in. There'll be enough moisture to be lifted, and we'll get daily rounds of a few scatter showers and thunder showers through the weekend, and really next week I think it'll be more active. But that's what this pattern does for us. It creates heat, but then a daily chance for a scatter shower or thunder shower. It's a very typical summer pattern for us here in Houston. Here's the big picture. So Thursday is a little more active. We get a little bit of chance for the sea breeze showers to come up off the Gulf. Watch how things settle down, and then here they come again. A little sea breeze scatter shower chance on Friday, but it's low. That's 20% chance on Friday. Again, things will settle down Friday night. We go into Saturday afternoon. A little sea breeze with a few scatter showers depicted by one of our lower res models looking longer range. That's Saturday. Going to Sunday, again, a few scatter showers coming up off the Gulf of Mexico Sunday. Now, Monday, it looks a little wetter, and I think next week, Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, I may need to raise rain chances a little bit. I've got them at 40% for Monday and Tuesday, but this type of a pattern can make for quite a wet time each afternoon early next week. So that's what I think we're looking at when we look a little bit longer range. Drought report, east half of the country has had plenty of rain early in the spring, so the heat wave here is coming at the right time. At least they're not in drought in the Carolinas and the Virginias. A little bit of drought in the desert Southwest, but it is the desert Southwest. And then we look at Texas. Now, San Antonio, one of the drier spots in the United States, but they're in exceptional drought here. This drought report does not count the heavy rain they had here last week and early and over the weekend, so that will include some of the 8-inch rain totals plus that they had last week when we get the report updated, and that will come out on Thursday, and it remains dry back into the Davis Mountains in Fort Stockton out in West Texas. Longer range 23rd through the 27th across the USA. Rainfall outlook is above normal in the middle part of the country, maybe much above here in New Mexico. Houston above normal, as that sea breeze will get rain showers a chance every day as we go through the weekend and really going into next week. And as far as the heat, I showed you where the heat dome is going to be centered over the Virginias and the Carolinas, way above normal temps here. Again, Pennsylvania, Ohio, New York, New Jersey, I think they have a chance of hitting triple digits next week with a heat wave building there. And then to balance it out, the Mountain West temps well below normal for this time of the year. Let's talk a little bit more about the tropics. So things are quiet right now. If we were to get an early season storm, a June storm, this is where they usually develop, in the Western Caribbean and the Gulf of Mexico. As we look at storm history, these are all the landfalling Gulf hurricanes since 1900s in the month of June. And it's been a while since we've had one here impact the immediate Houston area. Bonnie in 1986, that's the last time a June hurricane made landfall on the upper Texas coast. It is interesting, as we pulled up this data, one thing that really stood out to me, look at the dates of these storms, these June hurricanes since 1900. 1909 had one come into Brownsville, 1913 near Corpus, 1936 near Corpus, 1929, 1921 hurricane. That was a strong one that came up just north of Matagorda Bay. We had a lot of activity in the 20s, teens, near the turn of the century. You know, the first couple of decades, 1909, 13, the 20s and the 30s. Look at all these hits down here, and then nothing since then. You got to go to 1986 to find the last, Texas hurricane landfall, not tropical storm, but hurricane landfall, Bonnie, in 1986. So a flurry of activity in the Gulf in June in the early 20th century, and then things have been quiet since then. We are quiet in the Atlantic Basin. There's plenty of dust out here. This is our dust forecast. I think we may get some dust coming into Texas as we head through the weekend, so maybe skies get a little hazy. Dust also suppresses tropical development, so that's another reason why we are quiet, at least for now, in the month of June, with no development, says the Hurricane Center and NOAA, over the Atlantic Basin for the next 7 days. One other thing we do watch when we look for potential tropical cyclone development is something called heat potential. So this is not just sea surface temperature. This measures the temperature beneath the ocean surface. Like, how deep does that warm water go? Because that gives us a much better understanding of how much energy, how much heat potential is there for a storm to feed on. And again, so a measure of how much deep warm water is available. Plenty here off the northern portions of South America, and then it kind of fizzles as we get into the further east we go. Really don't have a whole lot of heat potential coming south of the Cape Verde Islands. It would be early to see a system develop out here. We need a little more time for the ocean heat potential to develop out there. Notice where there's quite a bit of heat potential for a storm. Western Caribbean, I showed you that map earlier. If we get early season storms, they quite often develop in the Western Caribbean and the Gulf, where we usually see early season deeper heat potential across the ocean. One thing that's interesting about this map is that look how in the Gulf we don't have that deep water heat. It doesn't go very deep. The ocean heat content goes quite deep in the Caribbean, but in the Gulf, at least for the moment, it doesn't go very deep. And we look at sea surface temperatures, and these will update here in just a moment, but it looks plenty warm on the surface. 85 here in the west central Gulf of Mexico, 87 in the central Gulf of Mexico. But as I showed you, that's just at the surface. That heat doesn't go very deep. It's 85 at the surface here in the Western Caribbean, but those warm temperatures extend quite a ways down. So there's a lot more energy here should a storm develop than there is actually available in the Gulf, even though the sea surface temperatures right at the surface are very similar. And I pointed out here in the East Pacific where it's 88, they've had a very busy start to the season over here in the Eastern Pacific. There is a system over here that we are now watching. There it is right there. That is Tropical Storm Eric. So ABCD, 1, 2, 3, 4. This is the fourth named storm in the Eastern Pacific season already. Now their season here starts in May. So they start a month earlier out here. But the fourth storm is keeping it busy in the East Pac. And Eric is forecast to impact the Pacific coast of Mexico as a Cat 2 during the day on Thursday. So Thursday night and Friday morning, Acapulco and port coastal cities on the Pacific coast of Mexico will have to deal with a Cat 2 storm. So some wind and rain expected there as Eric makes landfall later in the week. Back home, hot and humid. Typical early summer stuff. A slight chance for a scattered shower on Wednesday, very slight. High temp going up to 95. The extended forecast, 40% rain chance on Thursday, a little bit better rain chance Thursday. Then we'll back it down for the summer solstice Friday and Saturday and Sunday. Just a 20% chance for a stray shower, mid-90s, hot, humid, early summer weather. We do raise rain chances early next week. And for the moment, I've got a 40% chance on Monday and Tuesday. Just looking at some of the longer range modeling, it may be wetter than that Monday and Tuesday next week. So if you have plans early next week, heads up, we may go back into a wetter weather pattern for the first several days of next week. That is where we stand. Have a beautiful evening, everybody.